affiliations. So yes, in the 80s, in the 90s, there were compulsory courses. All right. Oh, according to Allahyarham, Prof. Kamal, the course, okay, the only one course. The course was Islamic and Asian civilizations. This has helped the multi-ethnic youth of Malaysia to have a better understanding of the major cultures and religions in Asia. So maybe Allahyarham Prof, he witnessed this because he was at that moment, right? Perhaps he witnessed how this course had helped in instilling the understanding of multiculturalism especially in Asia. The mutual understanding of each other's community needs, particularly at the level of political elites, has made it possible for the minority Chinese community to have public schools using Chinese as the medium of instruction, as well as Indian community to have public schools using Tamil as the medium of instruction from the time of independence in 1957 until the present day. So it is allowed, right, for vernacular schools to exist, okay, to operate in Malaysia. It should be pointed out that Malaysia is the only Muslim majority country in the world that has accommodated the needs of the major non-Muslim minorities in such a manner. Okay, according to Allahyarham Prof, only Malaysia provided that. Okay, Malaysia provides that, meaning to say vernacular schools for non-Muslim majority and non-Muslim minorities, right? The Chinese and the Indians. There has been an increase in the number of the vernacular schools using their own mother tongues in a Malay majority country. Yeah, perhaps that's true. There's no other countries that do that. Yeah. For a long time, Malaysia's relationship with Europe, particularly with Britain, has been very cordial despite political and cultural differences. It is, however, only very recently, in 2003, that the Malaysian government decided to establish an institute for the study of the Occident at the National University of Malaysia. This institute will help to enhance the Malaysian people's understanding of European and American cultures and civilizations. There is definitely a greater need of Muslim communities to understand Western civilization, religions, cultures, and its intellectual history in a more objective way. All right, so yeah, according to Allahyarham, UKM, right? In UKM, the establishment of this, perhaps IKMAS, right? Yeah, if I'm not mistaken, Institute Kajian Malaysia and Antarabangsa, the Institute of International and Malaysian Studies, something like that. The emergence of the unipolar world championed by the USA and the way the US President Bush projected himself vis-a-vis the rest of the world since 9/11 have made many observers in Malaysia and the third world wonder whether US education, despite its advancement in science and technology, succeeds in making her political leaders fully aware of the diversity of non-Western cultures and civilizations. All right. As we discussed earlier, earlier in this book, Allahyarham Prof talks about how the Westerners, most of the time they mistakenly taken us, meaning to say the Asians, as the same, even though actually we are different, right? The Japanese are different, Southeast Asian countries are different, right? The American education system has had its share of criticism from within and without. The Closing of the American Mind by Alan Bloom, for example, is a powerful and passionate diagnosis of the failure of American higher education to meet the vision of democracy and the way the universities have impoverished the souls of today's students. Closing of American mind. So the failure of American universities to improve their own students. It is a matter of great concern to the rest of the world that the US Strategic Task Force on Education has recently decried what it described as America's ignorance of outside world, and argued that the reluctance of Americans to study foreign civilizations could become a threat to national security. Even the US government, they have done their studies and they came out with this result. Most Americans are ignorant of the outside world. And they are afraid of that because it will become threats to their national security. The task force members pointed out that Americans are largely ignorant about the Middle East and suffer from a pervasive lack of knowledge of the world at large. Yeah, this is true. If you read the statistic, only a few Americans have been outside, right? Their country. The panel of US educators and politicians observed that we are unnecessarily putting ourselves at risk because of our stubborn monolingualism and ignorance of the world. Putting their country at risk because they only speak American English, for example. The panel recommended that by 2010, US colleges and universities must make it mandatory for 20% of US students to have studied abroad. And by 2040, that ratio should be increased. It should increase to 50%. The report concluded, to successfully navigate the new millennium, we will need leaders who are able to understand global crisis, not only from an American vantage point, but also from those of our allies and adversaries. So they know the importance of to know other people from other countries. In this era of globalization, new world order, and international terrorism, it is not just the American ignorance of the world that needs to be corrected. The Muslim mind too has been ignorant of the West, with all its strengths and weaknesses, diversities and commonalities, complexities and superficialities. The West appears to the Muslim mind and imagination as a monolith and a constant. The image is oversimplified, homogenized, and stereotyped thanks to the creative imagination of Hollywood and TV. The West is largely represented by the image of the ugly American, except for the privileged Muslim students who had studied in USA, England, France, Germany, or Scandinavian countries. The Muslim world's view of Europe too tends to be faulty, superficial, and fragmented. The Muslim intellectuals in general tend to be either pro-West or anti-West. There is only a small minority of Muslim scholars who try to understand the West or Europe objectively with all its virtues and its shortcomings, its positive as well as negative aspects. Okay. So, we almost finished. The Muslim communities of Asia and the Middle East too cannot afford to have leaders or decision makers who are ignorant of the Far East or the West, or who view them both from the perspective of the past or the perspective of ununiform and prejudiced religious extremists whose view of the world is superficial, oversimplistic, and imagine black and white picture. The Muslims who watch television nowadays can benefit from the informative and educational National Geographic or Discovery or travel channels as they expose the Muslim viewers to many different cultures, peoples, and lifestyles. The educated among them, however, need to go beyond television or what the internet can offer. To be leaders of the future, they need to be in living contact with the people of Far East and the West, communicating, interacting, and exchanging views about the world through rational, non-violent dialogues After all, their religion, Islam, urges them to seek knowledge even unto China, and teaches them that, O mankind, we created you from a single pair of a male and female, and made you into nations and tribes, that you may know each other, not that you may despise each other. Verily, the most honored of you in the sight of Allah is he who is the most righteous of you. Okay, Alhamdulillah. Again, this is actually a paper. Raya Hamprof, he presented the paper at the ASEM conference on culture and civilizations held in Beijing. All right. So, Alhamdulillah, we have finished reading chapter 4. Okay, anyone wants to add anything? Sorry, I'm actually joining from my handphone. Okay, thank you, Shazan. All right, I think we have finished. Alhamdulillah. Okay, we end our session with Tasbih Kafarah in Suratul Asr. Okay, thank you.